Rube, so you know how the last podcast I said I had some ants in my kitchen?
Yeah.
So a little update. Ant situation's getting better.
Oh, okay.
But to put you in my frame of mind, today I was going to make my lunch in my kitchen, which I'm already like kind of grossed out because I know they're kind of there in the corner of the room. So I start making a salad, and I have like a bag of lettuce, like the romaine heads. So I pull out a new head and I start to like rip off lettuce for it, and I see little dots on it. I think it's like, oh, maybe the lettuce is starting to go bad. And I look closer, bugs,
No.
not ants, but bugs. I'm going, oh, that's gross.
Wait, so the romaine was in the fridge?
Yeah.
Was it in the crisper?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They weren't ants. They were just like bugs that were clearly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they weren't.
At least they weren't ants.
Well, I'm saying like the ants didn't infiltrate. It's kind of unrelated.
Okay. Well, that might be worse.
Well, that's the thing.
So
So
we have two problems.
Well, here's the biggest problem. I stopped making a salad and said, well, I could clean all this lettuce, but I don't even want it. Then I realized I ate a salad yesterday.
Oh, dear. You would have noticed. Well, you washed the lettuce before you made the salad.
Yeah, but like, I'll be honest. I like rinsed the lettuce. I'm not giving a good washing to that lettuce.
You don't have to scrub it. You rinse it.
I think there's a pretty good chance I ate quite a few bugs yesterday.
I don't think you ate bugs.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Because if you rinse the lettuce, I mean, if there's a bug on there, it's going to come off.
Yeah, I thought that until I went to rinse one of these leaves and the bug didn't come. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast.
You ate bugs.
He's Reuben Frank. I am Dave Zangaro.
Thanks
Extra protein added to my diet this week. We do have some football stuff to talk about. Yeah, it was a rough way to start my my afternoon. But we have a bunch of football stuff to talk about. The Eagles draft we've talked about so much, but we want to take a look at the rest of the NFC East, see how they reloaded, see what experts think about their draft classes. We had a chance to talk to DeAndre Swift and Olamide Zaccheaus on Wednesday, our first chance to talk to those guys since they became Eagles. So we'll have some takeaways from that. And
we finally talked to the Eagles 2 coordinators for the first time.
No.
Oh, no, we didn't.
That's not true. No. But we'll start with going through the Eagles draft picks and trying to figure out exactly what their roles will be as rookies. It's an exercise we do every year. And this time there are some significant questions about some of their roles. We'll just go down the list, and we'll start with Jalen Carter, the 9th overall pick, who, by the way, reportedly signed it or agreed to his rookie deal. Almost a formality, those deals at this point, but the Eagles are getting that done. They have their rookie camp starting on Friday, so my guess is he shows up Friday and signs that piece of paper, and he's good to go.
Not like the old days when there was no rookie wage scale and first-round picks would hold out a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks into training camp.
Hey,
I'm never playing for this team.
It would happen.
Yeah.
Again, it's funny. You were doing like looking back at previous draft picks. I think it was for your running back story, but you look back at the 60s and they would draft guys who never played for them.
Yeah.
Happened quite a bit.
It's common.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's happened recently, but not for the same reason.
Yeah.
But anyway.
All right. Start with Jalen Carter.
Yeah.
How do you try to figure out exactly what his role will be with this team? Is he a starter first off?
I think he should be. And I think you got to make sure, you got to get him in shape. Look, we don't know what kind of shape he's in. I don't think he looked bad. I thought he looked, he certainly didn't look out of shape when we saw him, but there's football shape and there's.
Yeah, he looked pretty good climbing the stairs to that table.
Yeah, that's right. It's not the same as pro day. So, you got to get him in the starting line healthy and in shape and, being able to handle the workload of being a starter. But if he can do that, I think he's got to be. You don't draft a guy in the top 10 to sit.
True.
And look, he's going to have a role either way. If he doesn't start, he'll still have a role in the rotation because of the nature of the position. But I think he's got to start.
So who are your starters on the line? If you consider the edges, Sweat and Reddick, Jordan Davis as the nose, it's Fletcher and Javon. Fletcher and Javon's replacement, Jalen Carter.
I would think so.
Yeah. Milton Williams, still the third guy in that rotation, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. Drafting Jalen Carter, I think they're still really high on Milton. I don't think they drafted Jalen to replace Milton, but in a way that I think Milton kind of stays in the same role he was in last year.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll play a little bit more. Maybe you're not playing Carter as much as you did Javon, being a veteran.
That's possible. I'm really interested to see how much Carter plays. I mean, I think the upper. I mean, look, even Fletcher when he was in his prime was playing, 45 to 50 snaps a game.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not going to play more than I think the ceiling would be like 65%.
Yeah, that's really high. That's what Fletcher.
That's really high.
So Fletcher Cox last year and Javon Hargrave pretty similar in the regular season. 713 for Fletch, 712 for Javon. So it's like around 65% for those guys. You'd figure Fletch is probably going to be around there again, maybe a little lower.
Maybe a little lower, probably be good for him.
Yeah. So if you say Jalen Carter, probably around 60% of the snaps. So
yeah,
you're talking.
I think 55
pushing 700 snaps.
Yeah,
would be ideal. Health is obviously a big part of that.
Yeah.
Milton last year, by the way, played around 36%. So you could see that going up too a little bit if you try to balance it out.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see where Jalen Carter plays too. Is it all 3 tech? Does he play 4I? I think he will. Will they give him snaps on the nose occasionally?
Maybe.
On the edge?
Like
a 5 tech at times?
I just wonder how much they want to throw at him.
Mm-hmm.
I think physically he can handle it.
Yeah.
I guess it's going to be a matter of, how quickly he's able to, process what they're teaching him. And that's how a guy is doing well when they start throwing different positions at him. So the more he can do, the more he's going to play. If he can handle some outside snaps, it'd be great.
Yeah, we've seen them do that throughout the years with Fletcher. And it's also because they have some defensive ends who are big enough and can play inside like BG. But we've seen that throughout the years. Like BG will line inside to put Fletcher on the edge. And it just gives him a different matchup. It gives the tackle something different to think about. He's going against kind of speedy edge guys. And now you have Fletcher Cox out there or Jalen Carter out there. It's a different animal.
Yeah, and I love that. And I think ideally you will see that. And we'll see in camp if he's getting some outside reps. That tells you he's doing well.
Yeah. Next one, Nolan Smith, 30th overall pick, another Bulldog. This one's a little trickier. He's not going to be a starter, you would assume, because you have Josh Sweat and you have Hassan Reddick. Where does it go after that? Because BG is still on the roster. Technically, Derek Barnett is still on the roster. You have some other guys, whether it's Patrick Johnson, Teron Jackson. Where does he kind of fit in that order, and how much do you think he'll play?
I would guess he'll be the third rusher. I think it'll probably be best for BG. I mean, listen, but BG he was only playing 20 snaps a game.
Yeah, it got boosted at the end of the year by some bigger snap totals.
Yeah. What did he average? He averaged under 25, right?
Yeah, around there, a little over that. He ended up with 474 snaps, 43%.
Yeah, I think that's going to go down, and I think Nolan Smith's going to be right up there. If Sweat and Reddick are getting the bulk of those edge reps, I think he'll be next.
Interesting.
I don't think he'll be super close, but
yeah, and they haven't been playing BG inside as much as we saw under Jim Schwartz. So yeah, he really was just that third edge rusher. And it's kind of tricky to project the fourth edge guy because they really are 4 deep now. They were supposed to be 4 deep last year, but Barnett got hurt in the first game. So we never really saw what that role was going to look like.
Yeah, and I wonder if we still don't even know if Sean Desai is a real person. So it's hard to speculate about the stuff he's going to run. But I wonder if some coordinators bringing guys in waves, like Reddick and Sweat is your first wave. And then, it's like a hockey line change. And you bring in BG and Nolan Smith as your second group. And they can kind of learn how to play off each other. And we used to see Jim Schwartz bring in, he would roll a new defensive front up and they would, he'd have the second team and they would go in there for a series. So I think he's going to play a lot. And again, how does training camp go? How does he learn the defense that we don't know what it's going to be yet? We have a general idea.
We have a pretty good idea looking back at the Bears.
Yeah, we have a good idea, but it'd be nice to talk to Sean Desai one of these years.
It would be. So I think one of the things I did like that he did in Chicago, they had a lot of uneven fronts so that they'd overload one side or the other. I'm curious to see how much he'll do that with the younger players out there.
Yeah, I mean, these are all good questions. I mean, even after we talk to him, we're not going to know really until training camp.
Yeah, look, and Nick is big on competitive advantage, and sometimes we laugh at it, but there kind of is one here. We've seen very limited amount. Like we kind of have an idea of the general stuff Desai's going to run, but we haven't seen him with this defense. And I think it's even going to be pretty vanilla in the preseason. We'll see a little bit more in practice and training camp, but they're very selective about what they show and what they don't show. When they run those joint practices, they'll be selective there depending on who they're going against. And we know the Browns are one of them, but we don't know the other one yet, right?
We don't know the other one yet.
I'd assume there's going to be another one.
I guess we'll get the preseason schedule when we get the regular season schedule. So we can the Browns game's here, right?
Yeah. And they're coming out to practice.
There's only 3. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we go back to Florham Park.
That would make sense.
Yeah, we'll probably, because they play the Jets every preseason. And there's only 3 preseason games. So I like Florham Park. It was very hot.
Yeah, I don't think it's like that all the time.
Oh no, I like the tree. There's that tree in the middle
of the field.
Yeah,
it's funny. All of us were like, "Look at that tree," and all the Jets guys like, "Yeah, there's a tree. We know that tree's it's there's a tree. We get it."
Yeah, I was trying to explain that to Jeff Lurie. Wasn't up there. I remember seeing him at practice, and he was asking about the Florham Park, and he was asking about the facility, and I was trying to explain to him that there was this victory tree, and in the middle of the field, and I don't think I really expressed it very well, but it is cool. But yeah, that would be my guess, Browns and Jets. Yeah, do they play? They won't play either one during the season, right?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, so that would make sense. Anyway.
But coaches talk. So, I know they're cognizant of that. If, this coach is a buddy with this guy, then we not – So they think about all that stuff, and some of it's overkill, but I think in the case of Sean Desai, they're going to kind of hold it close for a while.
I would think.
Next one, and this is where it starts getting a little tricky because we know Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith are going to play, and we think they'll play a decent amount. Tyler Steen, offensive lineman from Alabama, the 3rd-round pick, 65th overall. Tough to project.
I mean, if he wins the competition that Nick Sirianni, I guess, unwittingly told us about, he's going to play a lot, like every snap. If he doesn't win the competition, if Cam Jurgens is the right guard, he won't play at all. So I think it's pretty cut and dry. I wouldn't expect Steen to unseat Jurgens, but it's possible. We really don't know what Cam Jurgens is all about. We haven't really seen him.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what that competition looks like.
I think what you said the other day is exactly what it's going to be like. When Kelsey's going to get every other practice off, so you move Jurgens to center and you play Tyler Steen at right guard, and that way you don't have back and forth reps, and you don't have Jurgens saying, "How come I'm not with the ones?" Because he'll be with the ones either way.
Yeah,
and he needs the reps. So
yeah, they both do.
Well, they both do, but I think Jurgens is more likely playing, and either way, he's going to be center too. So he's got to get those reps.
So it makes sense to do it that way too, because if they're ever
in straws in my drink, Dave.
Okay.
At least there's no ants.
Check it. And you figure if Kelsey ever gets hurt, that's why you want Steen to get those reps anyway, because that's like their backup plan. If Kelsey gets hurt, then you slide Jurgens in, and Steen has to be ready to play guard. So, you're right. It's pretty cut and dry. If he's a starter, he'll play a lot. If he's not, he's on the bench. And I would assume he'd be the top backup at right guard.
Not a ton of options.
Well, Jack Driscoll has played there quite a bit.
Yeah.
So Opeta has played there a little bit.
Yeah. Started a playoff game there.
Yeah. So if he's coming along slower than they anticipate, which you hope doesn't happen, but it could. Nothing's guaranteed. I wonder if Driscoll can get in that mix. They like Jack Driscoll.
I think they just like him as a backup. I wonder if he'll ever be the guy anywhere. I think his value is, and I like Jack, and he plays hard. He's tough. He plays hard. I just don't know if he's ever going to be given an opportunity to be a starter. We'll see.
I think Jack Driscoll is kind of like the floor for Steen.
Okay.
What they're hoping he's going to be. Because they're hoping Steen's going to be a starter at some point. But his floor is probably Jack Driscoll, a guy who can back up just about every position but center.
Yeah. Yeah,
and those guys are valuable.
They sure are.
Not what you want in the early part of the third round. Like, this Steen might end up falling somewhere between like Driscoll and Seumalo.
Okay.
You see that?
Yeah.
All versatile guys. Seumalo ended up being a starter. Driscoll probably won't become that. And Seumalo was a third round pick like Steen. So, the obvious hope is that he becomes a starter. It took Isaac a while, though. Like, they tried to start him in year 2, and it didn't work well.
No, it didn't go well. They had Steve Wisniewski.
But Steph Wisniewski.
Steph, yeah, Steve's his dad.
Yeah. Steve wasn't ready.
Yeah. So it's it'll be, he played in the SEC. I mean, he finished in the SEC. Well, he played in the SEC his whole career, but finished in Alabama.
Don't move Vandy yet.
No, but he played it. He played at a high level. So it's hard to imagine them signing or drafting an offensive lineman that Stout can't mold into like his maximum potential. It's just, it's hard. Imagine them missing, I don't know, lineman right now. And I don't even know if I guess they missed on Dillard. He wasn't what they thought, but there were extenuating circumstances too. I think he would have become a decent left tackle if Mulata had stuck to rugby and Dillard hadn't gotten hurt.
Yeah, you're right. But he's the one, and he's the highest pick of them all.
Yeah.
Which is kind of ironic. Don't you think?
Yeah, that's true. I was just processing that.
Okay.
I can't stop thinking about the lettuce.
Yeah, I mean, neither. Next one, another kind of tricky one, Sidney Brown.
Yeah.
The very next pick, safety out of Illinois, who they really like.
I think he'll get an opportunity.
I do too. I think if he's as good as Terrell Edmonds
is gone.
You play him. I don't know if he's gone, but you certainly play the kid.
It seems like the Zach Browns, like they'll release a guy like an Anthony Harris. There's been a bunch of those guys who, if they're not starting, it's like you're on a 1-year deal. Do we really want him to be the backup? I don't want to cut him yet. I mean, the guy's played a lot of football for good teams, but I think it's fair to say they want Sidney Brown to win that job.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how that rotation works because I think Reed Blankenship's going to be a starter, especially like the role he plays as kind of the post safety. I think Edmonds and Brown are a little redundant.
Yeah, that's true. And I just wonder if they've already decided that Reed's good. Like, did they see enough in those 4.5, 5 games? I did, honestly.
Mm-hmm. I think they might have something there.
Yeah, I do too. Smart.
Wasn't perfect.
No.
I don't know what the ceiling is. I don't think he's like all pro ceiling, but I think he'd be a decent starter.
Ceiling, Quentin Michael.
Feel pretty good about that.
Yeah. Another undrafted safety who really, it took him a few years because he was a special teamer. And finally, Jim Johnson was like, this kid's so good on special teams. I'm going to give him a shot at safety, even if it means benching Sean Considine. And
God forbid.
And a year later, Q is a Pro Bowler. So, they don't draft many safeties. They must really like him.
Yeah, early in the third round too, and a little bit against consensus. Like his draft status was kind of all over the place.
Yeah,
but a little bit before consensus.
How do you think they decided who to take first, Steen or Brown? I'll ask Howie that. Like, how do you decide that? Obviously, Steen was 65, Sidney Brown was 66.
Yeah, I don't know. Sidney, when we ask him about what motivates him, I just got to look across that locker room, see Tyler Steen
taken before me.
Yeah, it's a shame Lane has 65. If I was Tyler Steen, I'd wear that number in front of him.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I think you're right about Brown. I think he has a chance to play quite a bit. Yeah. The fourth round pick that they made appear from a future third rounder, Keely Ringo, cornerback from Georgia. This one feels pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, I would think he'd be the backup outside corner if he shows he can handle it. And young kid. He's only 20. He's got some good size. Look, he's going to have a chip on his shoulder his whole career. I mean, he went 105.
Yeah. I wonder if internally he has any regret about coming out. He didn't have to come out. He could have gone back and played for a really good team again and had 3 years under his belt.
And then Georgia. Get drafted by the Eagles next year because he went to Georgia.
Yeah, maybe a higher round.
Yeah. He just talking to him for the 10 minutes we talked to him, he kind of struck me as a guy who doesn't look at it that way.
Yeah.
I think he said, like, it's just a number. I just want the opportunity, something like that, paraphrasing. But maybe deep down,
it's always funny. Teams always say it doesn't matter where you get drafted. And it always matters where you
always
get
matters. Yeah. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I get why you have to take that mindset if you're a player. But, I mean, it matters. Guys who get drafted higher get more chances. They get more opportunity. It doesn't mean you can't make it as a lower draft pick. But and with him, he's a little different because there's a pedigree there. And they traded. They did something really uncharacteristic to get him. They traded a future pick, a future higher round pick to get him.
I mean, a 4th round pick's not going to. It's very rare for a 4th round pick not to make the roster.
Oh, he'll be on the roster.
Yeah, no, but I mean, just in general.
In general, yeah.
I mean,
you got to kind of stink.
You have to really. I look. I don't even know the last one who didn't make the team. It has happened. Who was that? There was a quarterback. Was it from Florida State? I don't want to think about it, but well, Thorson was what, a 5? Yeah, 5. So I think that's the difference. I think top 4 rounds, you're pretty much going to be on the team. 5th round and up.
Is that the cutoff?
Yeah, for me, I'm gonna look up the last 4th round pick who never made the 53.
Okay, I'm interested to see if Keely Ringo is like clearly, and we'll get that's the nice thing about having 2 older veterans in front of him. We'll get a good sense of who the third corner is in camp because those guys are going to take. Well,
unless they take them
together. They take them the same day. Then
McPherson and Ringo.
Or maybe Grady Williams can sneak his way into there. They want to take a look at him. He's on a 1-year deal, but kind of similar to Edmonds in a way. Like, we don't really know what his role is, but they took a flyer on him.
I should have known this. So there's only, in the last 30 years, there's only one 4th round pick who never played for the Eagles. Dave Barr didn't. He was the quarterback. But Donnell Pumphrey.
Oh gosh.
He was at the end of the 4th round, right?
He was.
Yeah, he was like 130, 132. Here it is. But they've got some good players in the 4th round. You know, you mentioned Driscoll, Avante, Sweaty.
Yeah.
Boykin. They got some decent players. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else. Jack Ikuguanu played 1 game. Trey Darzalek. Did he ever play for the Eagles? I don't
even know that name.
Trey Darzalek?
Yeah. What year was that?
He was a guard. That was last year. That was the Super Bowl. That was 04. UTEP. He was like a guard out of UTEP. Darzalek was spelled Darilek. And we thought it was like derelict. Trey Derelict.
There's no J in that.
It's pronounced Darzalek.
Huh.
Andy Reid taught us that, and we were pronouncing it wrong.
Interesting.
Scott Peters, he did. Gary Scott played a couple games. Yeah, so Dave Barr was the one before. And then you go into the 80s and guys I never heard of. Anyway.
Yeah. Moving on?
Yes, please.
Yeah, Ringo will probably be the top backup corner.
Yeah.
We talked for 10 minutes, and that's all we had to say. Tanner McKee, 6th round pick, 188 overall, the quarterback. Starter. If he plays this year, something has gone very, very wrong.
Or very, very right. Like if they clinch top seed after
yeah.
But then you would think Mariota would play. But yeah. Real long shot to make the team, maybe a practice squad guy. If he has a good camp.
Think it's a long shot to make the team?
No, I shouldn't say long shot.
Okay.
Long shot to play. Only 2 quarterbacks drafted in the 5th round or later have ever won a game for the Eagles.
Yeah. You did this on the last.
And AJ Fields. Did we do that?
Yeah.
I thought I asked you that over your desk.
No, that was in this room.
Okay, I think I told Moles it would be a good trivia question.
Yeah, that is a good trivia question. I would think Tanner McKee has the edge on winning the 3rd job.
Yeah, I would think so.
Over Ian Book.
Ian Book's going to be a coach
this year.
Maybe. Well, was it? Oh, it was a guy, Matt Nagy, went from
Mm-hmm.
playing in training camp to coaching that year.
Yeah.
They've had their backup their third string quarterbacks do a lot better as coaches than players.
Mm-hmm. They've had a few.
Yeah, they've had a bunch. Anytime you draft a quarterback, you want to see him in camp.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a big arm. He's got good size. He could look really lost coming into this offense. So you look for progress. You look for
and who even knows about the reps.
Yeah.
I mean, there aren't a ton of reps to start with. It's
Right.
not like these are long practices.
Right.
The lion's share are going to go to Jalen Hurts. They're going to get Mariota up to speed because he's new in this offense. And then you're fighting for scraps between Ian Book and Tanner McKee.
Guess
we didn't even see how many times did Carson Strong get to throw a football last year?
I'm guessing we'll see more. We'll see Tanner McKee get more reps than Carson Strong.
Maybe on the first day. Based on how many, they didn't let Carson Strong throw a football last year.
They didn't even let him touch the football.
Yeah.
He would run out and pick up a football and they'd slap it out of his. Put that thing down.
Yeah. 7th round pick, Moro Ojomo, defensive tackle from Texas. I think he can work his way into the rotation.
Do you really?
Yeah. I mean, he'd be at the back end of that rotation because they are kind of deep there. So we'd mentioned the starters, probably Fletcher, Jalen, and Jordan Davis. Then you have Milton Williams. And then, I think Marlon's probably the backup nose right now. Maybe. You have Noah Ellis in the mix, who they kept around for a reason. But all those guys, Contavious Street, who they brought in as a free agent off the street, they can.
He's a real street free agent, Dave.
I think Ojomo has a chance to mix in there, make the team, and then be a back end of the rotation guy.
Yeah, you like his size. He's young. Is he 20? I think he's 20.
No, he's not that young.
No, 21.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Yeah, he'll turn 22 in August.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, I wouldn't count him out. He's an interesting guy. We'll see. There's definitely room for some young depth there, especially if depending on Barnett, what happens with him.
Yeah, and even though they're not really the same position, and Ojomo's not going to give you a ton probably as a pass rusher early, but if you need a body out there on early downs, I could see him getting some snaps that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I feel like we got to the bottom of that.
Yeah.
Want to move on?
It's a fun class, It
is a fun class.
It's a fun group of guys.
And it's a fun group without a skill position. Normally we get excited.
Tanner McKee.
Well, you know what I mean. Yeah. Normally we get excited to talk receivers and running backs, and there's not one of them in this class.
No
and
receivers, running backs, tight ends.
Still some athleticism, still some guys who are going to push to play this year. And this class is going to play more as rookies than the last class.
Yeah, they better.
You'd hope.
Yeah, they better. If they don't, they're in big trouble.
I had an interesting question posed to me on Bird's Huddle last week, and it was a tough answer. Which draft class do you think makes a bigger impact this season? Is it 2022 or 2023?
Interesting.
And to me, it came down to the right guard position.
This year or?
This year.
Huh. I would think this year's draft.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You think this year's draft?
I think so.
I said last year's because you have, I think, 3 starters.
Jordan, Cam, and Nakobe.
Yeah.
But
you can make a case that Jalen and Nolan are going to play. Sidney's probably going to play. And then if Steen wins that job, all of a sudden it flips that.
Yeah, I think I guess the key to that answer is, it's Steen, but Sidney Brown too. See what he gives you, and whether if Ringo wins that third job, he could make an impact. You have 2 older corners. Who knows? They've been durable, but who knows?
Mm-hmm.
There's more people in this draft.
True.
There's 7 to 5. Was it 5 players last year?
Yeah.
So, but it's a good question. That sounds like a Mike Mulhern question.
It was a good one.
Yeah.
All right. We talked to DeAndre Swift.
We did
on Wednesday. Our first chance talking to him. Still going through it a little bit from the trade. It's got to be a tough deal. And he mentioned that everyone tells you it's a business, it's a business, but until you actually experience it, you don't really understand it completely.
Yeah, I think he said something along those lines, like, I've always known it was a business, but this is the first time I've really experienced that. Um, it's not easy, you settle into a place. You're a young guy. You buy a house. I don't know if you bought a house, but a lot of guys buy a house. You have, you put down roots. Maybe your kids are in school. I mean, there's just so much that goes into it. And all of a sudden, you're sitting there and living a different place. Now, for him, he's from here, but yeah, he seemed a little like, yeah, and he kept saying, yeah, I don't want to get into that, but you could tell, like he was pretty clear that he was, hurt by it and surprised by it. And I mean, I think once they picked, a running back at what, 14, 12.
They apparently would have picked at 6, which would have been insane.
Yeah, I like the player, but I don't like him that much.
Yeah.
But yeah, he seemed like he was still kind of adjusting to it. But I think being in your hometown has got to make that adjustment easier.
Yeah, and I think he also realizes the opportunity to play for this team. I mean, he's going to get a chance to play behind the best offensive line in football, and with a quarterback that really gives you a lot of extra opportunities you don't have with other quarterbacks in the league.
Well, Jared Goff's a pretty, give you just say about.
He might be the second best quarterback in the NFC.
Jared Goff?
Yeah. He's got a case.
Yeah, he might be. Which tells you, and
yeah,
he actually had a really good year last year, which I wasn't sure he still had it in him. How old is he? He's got to be 28, 29 now. Let's see.
Goff, yeah.
Yeah, he's 28.
16 draft.
Yeah, he came out in 16. He was a 1, right? He was in
Yeah.
one overall.
Yeah, before Carson. It was chocolate or vanilla, pepperoni or sausage. The whole Howie Roseman thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right, of course.
Somewhere in my notes at some point, I have a Jared Goff getting drafted by the Eagles story.
Yeah. Howie swears he knew that the Rams were taking Goff.
Yeah, he had to.
Right, he had to, right?
Yeah, you wouldn't do that otherwise.
Yeah, unless you like them both equally.
Which you don't.
Yeah. Although it's worked out better for Goff.
Yeah, I still think they got the evaluation right.
I would agree with that.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
The upside was with Carson, but
they both had their best year in 17.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
yeah.
How do we end up getting off topic so much?
I don't know.
It's your fault.
We went to Swift, and one went to Goff.
Oh yeah. Good
opportunity for him here. It really is.
It is, and it's really tough to tell how that position's going to shake out as far as reps and playing time and hierarchy. But he's got a body of work. Even though he's had some injuries, he's missed some time.
Yeah. Never anything like super serious. He's missed games here and there, but he's like,
and most running backs have.
Yeah, he's played like 13 games a year, basically.
Yeah, which is So, I mean, he's got more of a body of work than Kenny Gainwell or Boston Scott or Rashad Penny even. And I think it's most likely he'll be somewhere else next year, but it's a real opportunity for him to make some money, to earn some money, show he can, be a 12 touch a game guy, 12 or more. And I think there's a chance he could be back. See how it goes. It's not really Howie's thing to give long-term deals to running backs.
Yeah, it really isn't. You have to be a special player and the price has to be right. But I want to see if we see some screen passes in this offense.
Something's been missing.
It's an element they really haven't had.
Yeah.
And with their offensive line and how athletic it is, it's like that could be a big weapon for this team.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Yeah. I didn't understand why they didn't really do much of it.
The only time they throw to the backs is like Gainwell in the 2-minute drill, and those aren't screens; those are like flat routes. And
you're
dumping it off.
Did it with Miles his rookie year.
That was Doug's offense.
But I'm just trying to think with.
And like Doug's offense had it. That was from the Andy tree. So you had Sproles working those routes. You had then Miles and But Nick hasn't really.
But what I'm saying is Miles didn't even do it under Nick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Swift is obviously more naturally a fit as a screen catcher.
Sounds Miles. Like you could use a screen catcher in your house. I really want to see him in the screen game, no doubt.
Olamide.
Yeah, we talked to both St. Joe's Prep guys.
We did. It is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had a chance to listen to Rob Kessler from NBC 10 did an interview with Tim Roken, the head coach at the Prep, just about those guys being back in Philly and having the chance to be like around campus and be good examples for that program. It is pretty cool to have both of them back at the same time.
Yeah. Great program. They both talked a little bit about St. Joe's Prep and the tradition they have there. And I'm a Jersey guy. Well, you're a Jersey guy too, so I don't really know a ton about Philly football. But obviously it's one of the top programs in the state, and they both kind of, talked a lot about just how much it helped mold them as people and players and kind of get their careers jump started. So that is a cool thing. Zaccheaus is from Jersey, Camden County, one of those little, like, was he like Belmar or the other Belmar, the real Belmar, or like Magnolia or one of those,
Yeah.
But yeah, they're both really solid additions. I just wrote about Zaccheaus a little bit. I went back and found some of the.
Is it Zaccheaus or Zaccheaus?
I thought it was Zaccheaus, but it could be Zaccheaus.
I thought Zaccheaus.
Well, we'll go with Zaccheaus.
Although Olamide is one of my all-time favorite first names.
It's a good one.
It's a fun name to say.
Yeah.
It'll be a good Merrill name.
Oh, yeah.
He'll have fun saying that one.
Yeah.
I might ask him to do it for me next time I see him.
Merrill did back when we had answering machines, I had Merrill do my voice, my message.
Yeah.
And it was like 3rd and 10. The Eagles have the Cowboys backed up on their own 10-yard line. Here's the snap. And he's like, it's I forget who the running back was. Who was there? Like, I don't know. It was past Emmett, but it was like, he's at the 20, he's at the 25, he's at the 30. Mike, that's a play where the linebacker should have stayed home. Reuben Frank should have stayed home. He could have answered your call.
That's funny.
But here's what NFL.com said about Olamide coming out of Virginia. Pass catching technique is gross. Gross. Catches the back of.
That is not a football term.
Catches the back of the football. Tries to run before he secures it. Catch radius is small. Creates big plays but gives them away.
Gross.
Pass catching technique is gross. And he's had 3 drops and 153 targets in his career, and his numbers have gone up every year. And you're a real long shot as an undrafted wide receiver, or undrafted anything. But he, you got to really admire how he went from there to getting the Falcons' attention in camp. Just play special teams almost exclusively as a rookie in 19, and last 2 years has been a pretty solid player. And I don't know if he'll have the same numbers he had last year. We'll see how it all shakes out with him and Quez, as far as who's 3, who's 4, and how they use them. But he's gone from pass catching technique is gross to a really reliable guy. And he's actually fast. Like, you think of Quez is the speed guy. He's got a higher yards per catch than Quez in his career.
Yeah.
And he's not as fast as Quez, but he's got 9 40-yard catches in limited duty. So he can go get it and get you some yards. I still think Quez has unique trait.
The Quez yards per catch last year infuriates me because of how they use him.
Yeah. Yeah, and I get that, but really more a statement about.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, and he's really become a pretty valuable guy, and that's an underrated signing. I think he's gonna help this team.
He could. I'm curious to see what he looks like in camp.
Yeah,
they've had luck bringing in former undrafted Virginia players. Rodney
McLeod. I was thinking John Harris. But he was drafted.
Rodney just signed with the Browns.
Did he?
Reuniting with Jim Schwartz. So we'll see Rodney here
good.
In the summer. It'll be good.
Yeah.
He's coming off a great year, by the way.
He played really well last year.
They did not want to play him in Indy. They had no choice.
Yeah.
Nick Cross wasn't playing well, the rookie, and they were like, yeah, Rodney's playing well. He ended up having one of the better years of his career.
Yeah, and I every week I would look at the PFF safety rankings, and he was always at the top. I was like, man.
Yeah.
What is he, 33?
He'll be 33.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah, great guy.
Yeah, one of my favorites, honestly.
Yeah,
of all time. We're not supposed to have favorites, but we do.
He'll be 33. We can have favorites. We just can't root for him.
Yeah.
He'll be 33 in June. Yeah, next month. Yeah, I like Ronnie. So this will be his 13th year. No, his 12th year.
12th year.
Yeah, really solid guy.
Yeah. Anything else on Zaccheaus?
No.
Yeah. Olamide. It's fun to say. Catch all the sports action and more at Rivers Casino, Philadelphia. Whether it's the money line or the pass line, there's something for everyone in the great sports book. Rivers Casino, Philadelphia. Philly loves a winner. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Rube, let's take a look at the NFC East. The Eagles, I don't know if you've paid attention to draft grades. They're kind of goofy. I get it. And we probably shouldn't do it, but they're fun. And we want to see what some...
I looked at one this morning. They gave 29 out of 32 teams got a B plus or higher.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So come on.
Always a grain of salt, but pretty much universal love for the Eagles class.
Yeah.
It helps to have 2 first-round picks.
Right.
But I mean, every place I looked to find a grade, they had either an A or an A plus. So almost universal praise. Not the same for the rest of the NFC East. We'll start with the Cowboys. I'll just go through their top few picks here. In the first round, they took a Smith, and not the one we all expected. We thought Nolan Smith was going there. It was Mozzie Smith from Michigan. They doubled down on Michigan players, getting Luke Schoonmaker.
What team's going to take the first 2 guys from the same school?
Yeah. And then DeMarvion Overshown, the linebacker from Texas. And then, I don't know how to say his name, the defensive end from San Jose State,
Fajoko.
I thought was listed as a kind of a sleeper in this draft. He ends up going in the 4th round. Austin Richards from North Carolina and from Philadelphia, Philly guy.
Tackle.
Yep. So what do you make of this draft class?
I wasn't overwhelmed. I thought they took the wrong Smith in the first round.
I did too.
And
I thought getting a chance to get Nolan Smith and putting him in the rotation with Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence would have been a lot of fun.
Well, yeah, for them. Yeah, I was really surprised. We were all sitting there thinking, well, Nolan Smith's not getting past the Cowboys at 26, but there he is. So, and the other guys, I mean, I'm just not overwhelmed. They got the tight end from Michigan at 58.
Seemed a little early, based on
early.
Consensus.
Yeah. Those first 2 picks both seemed a little early. So
yeah, Mozzie Smith is when the Eagles drafted Jordan Davis, the floor was good run stuffer, but there was a ton of upside as a pass rusher. The floor as a run stuffer is there with Smith. I'm not sure if the upside is there. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
Well, they must think it. He can get to the quarterback because you don't take a guy 26 if you can't.
Yeah, thought that was an interesting pick.
Yeah.
Just looking at, I have a few grades here. NBC Sports Edge gave them a C-. PFF gave them a C+. Ringer C-. Their best grade, and these few came from Mel Kiper, gave them a B.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not big on draft grades, but it wasn't overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and some of these grades we'll laugh at in a few years because they got this wrong.
Sure,
but, it is a fun part of the process. Giants. Deontay Banks in the first round, cornerback from Maryland. John Michael Schmitz from Minnesota, the center in the second round. Jalen Hyatt, receiver from Tennessee, in the 3rd round.
I like Banks.
I do too.
Yeah,
the more I saw Banks, the more I liked him.
Yeah, I think he's a good player, and they took another DB, right? Hawkins.
From Old Dominion ODU. In the 6th round, and then Javarius Owens, safety from Houston, late in the 7th round.
Your guy.
My God.
Everyone from Houston's your guy.
Jalen Hyatt, a little after expected, good speed.
Yeah, I thought that was a good get there at 73. I liked what I saw from Hyatt. So I think Schmitz is going to be their starting center.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they had a pretty good draft.
I do too.
I think they had the 2nd best draft in the division.
Yeah, and that kind of goes with the grades. PFF A+, Ringer A-.
Wow.
ESPN A-, NBC Sports Edge A-. So
how about that?
Popular draft there.
Sounds like my report card in 9th grade.
Yeah, were you a good student in high school?
Not till my senior year. I was like, oh shoot.
I'm what were we talking like?
I was like a C student until like Well, I transferred. So in TNEC, I was awful. I was terrible through 10th grade. And then I found out that your grades don't transfer with you.
Oh, really?
So I had a chance to start from scratch in 11th grade at White Plains. And I was like, I really got to get my act together.
It's nice to get a refresh.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like they throw out the stats.
Cool.
Yeah. So.
I like that. Washington. They have a name. I can call them the Commanders. I got so used to calling them Washington for that long, but they are the
I still call them the Washington football team. Because you can't say former commander, Sonny Jurgensen, it just because he wasn't a commander. I can't do that. I get also, I don't mind commanders for last year into the future, but former commander Art Monk doesn't make sense.
It is weird, yeah.
And I told you I was making a reference to the Boston team that became the Washington team, and I had to call them the Boston football team because it was like a 1920, like whenever the Boston team that became the Washington team moved, before they moved to Washington, they had the same name that the team that we're not allowed to say anymore became the Commanders, and I had to call it the Boston football team.
We can't use it in historical context, I guess.
That made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway,
Commanders.
Washington's draft.
Interesting draft. Emmanuel Forbes, cornerback
pick.
From Mississippi State at 16. Quan Martin, safety from Illinois, kind of a safety nickel from Illinois in the second round. And then Ricky Stromberg, center from Arkansas in the third round. Didn't love this draft.
I mean, we'll see how it goes, but taking Forbes over Gonzalez was surprising to me.
No way Gonzalez should have been the third corner off the board.
I agree.
Crazy to me.
Yeah.
To go that late. I mean, to me, he was like, and I know it was like split. Opinions were split between him and Devin Witherspoon, but there's no reason for him to go behind those two guys.
Yeah, I didn't get that unless there's something about him we don't know, but we'll see how Forbes does. I would have taken Gonzalez in a New York second at 16.
I mean, the ball production was there, but the frame scares me, honestly. He's like 165 pounds.
166.
Sorry.
Come on. He needs every one of those. I mean, you look at the physical, and like he's a physical player. He'll get the most out of his 166 pounds, but
sometimes that's not a good thing.
Yeah, that too. You worry about him staying healthy, going against the big, strong, tough receivers that you're going to see. That's a scary pick. I was not in love with that pick.
Yeah. And then Quan Martin, good player, arguably the third best player in that secondary last year behind Witherspoon and Sidney Brown. Quan was always like, people had him higher than Sidney because I think like people think his skills translate. It's he has corner background as a nickel.
Right.
That position's probably a little more coveted, but I thought they overdrafted both of their top picks.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
The one pick I did like was them taking a flyer on Chris Rodriguez, Kentucky running back, in the 7th.
Yeah, he'll probably make the team.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do at running back. They have a few options, but I liked him. I liked watching him run. He runs hard.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. And then, so some grades here. PFF gave him a B. The Ringer gave him a C. ESPN gave him a B. NBC Sports Edge, a C. So if you're looking at consensus, like the Eagles had the top draft in the division based on these grades, Giants second, Commanders third, and then Cowboys fourth.
Maybe that's what the standings will look like this year.
I doubt it.
I doubt it too.
Yeah. All right. That was fun. The last little thing we have here, and this was your idea. So if it doesn't work,
everything else on the podcast
we'll blame you.
Is yours. So.
Some players who we think the Eagles could trade, whether it's soon or in training camp, a player or two
day before the season.
Yeah. Who they could trade. Who came to mind for you?
The guy that came to mind first was Quez, just because you have a guy who could be a WR3, and Quez just strikes me as a guy who might need to change the scenery. And I think his traits are going to be really valued by a team that sees that speed, that ability to get open, to track a ball. I mean, he can track a ball, deep ball. So if you look at what he did 2 years ago, There's a lot of value there. What do you have? 647 yards, something
Yeah.
like that. Obviously, this year didn't go the way he wanted, and he just strikes me as a guy who, if he goes somewhere else, could get back to where he was 2 years ago. And I think he has some value.
Yeah, my problem with the Quez trade is just they don't have a lot of receiver outside of the top two. So you have AJ Brown and Devontae, then you have Quez, and then you have Olamide. But after that, man, it's a pretty steep drop off to Britton Covey, to if Ngata has a chance to make the team, Greg Ward,
and they added a couple undrafted guys, but I think you'd have to have a plan. Someone else that you bring in, or if one of those guys.
Yeah. I thought if they drafted a receiver.
Yeah, but I think you don't trade Quez unless you have a plan for another guy who could be in the rotation, whether you're really high on one of those young guys, Tyree Cleveland or something. Yeah. I don't know. But I do think that I wouldn't be shocked if that happens.
Yeah. I'd be more surprised now than I would be before the draft when I thought there was a chance they take someone.
Sure.
My name that I'll give you is Derek Barnett. And it wouldn't happen for a while because he's coming off that ACL. But I'm assuming he's healthy at this point. I don't know for sure, but that happened in week 1 last year.
It was opening day.
Yeah, so you'd hope he's healthy by now. I don't know.
We saw him walking around a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have him,
I mean, yeah, I saw Kobe make 2 free throws. I've seen Carson Wentz throw a touchdown on a torn ACL. So,
yeah. You saw who make 2 free throws?
Kobe.
Oh, Kobe.
Yeah. You can walk around.
But that's right when the injury happens.
Okay.
This is more like at the end of the rehab. But I mean, September. I mean, you would think.
Oh yeah, no, I'm thinking he'll be totally fine.
Yeah, I would think so by camp.
But I don't know where he fits in the rotation. He could be the 5th guy in that rotation as an edge player. If he's after, you have Josh Sweat, Hassan Reddick, Nolan Smith, Brandon Graham. Are there snaps for a 5th edge rusher?
If everyone's healthy, I don't see it.
Yeah, you can save a little bit of cap room if you trade him after June 1st.
I wonder how much value he has. I mean, he's got 2 sacks since 2020. But I mean, he's not. He's young. He's 26.
He was 21 when they drafted him. He was a young player.
He's 26. He
former first-round pick. That still carries weight.
I think so. He's had 3 seasons with like 5+ sacks, which it's not huge, but
even like a player-for-player trade.
Maybe
we've seen them pull off some trades like that in the past where maybe it works out. And one didn't work out for the Eagles. It was
Mike McGlynn. No, not Mike McGlynn. Dennis Kelly for the receiver.
Oh, Dorial Green Beckham.
Yeah,
that didn't work. I was thinking of a different one.
We were laughing. We thought, oh man, they fleeced.
Yeah, that didn't work out. They traded Ryan Bates, who ended up playing for Buffalo, for a veteran edge rusher. What was his name? He didn't make the team. Oh, that's gonna bug the heck out of me. I know you're looking it up.
Eli Harold?
Eli Harold, that's right. Yeah.
Wow. I don't remember that.
Yeah, he played a little bit in the league. He had he last played in 2018. I guess they made that trade. I don't know when he was in Buffalo, probably 16 or 17. Ryan Bates ended up playing.
Ryan Bates went to the same high school as Gary Martin.
Yeah. Ryan Bates ended up, last year he started 15 games for the Bills. He's been with the Bills. He's played 56 games, 19 starts for the Bills after that trade.
Yeah, he was a full-time starter last year.
Mm-hmm.
Archbishop Wood.
Yeah, so I think Barnett.
Do you know who Gary Martin is? I said the same high school as Gary Martin. You just kind of didn't say
anything. I don't know who that is.
Gary Martin, who's a freshman at Virginia now, holds the record for fastest mile ever run in a high school-only race. He ran 3:56 mile last year at LaSalle High School in Springfield, I believe, is where the meet was. And he's now a freshman, great runner at Virginia. He's a big Eagles fan.
Okay.
Listens to the pod. So
does he?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that you think I know high school milers.
He's the best ever. If you're ever driving around Warminster and you drive up York Road from Street Road, there's a big banner honoring his accomplishment.
Yeah. I'm happy for him.
I know you.
I don't know high school milers.
Anyway.
Yeah. If you're listening, I don't dislike you. I don't know high school milers.
He's given up. He's abandoned the pod.
Yeah. I mean, we are 55 minutes in. He was probably gone when I started talking about ants to start this podcast. Yeah. So I think Barnett would make sense. The other name I had in mind.
What could you get for him?
Like maybe a player or maybe a late round conditional pick.
Yeah. Conditional 5. Conditional 6 become a 5.
Yeah, something like that. Or like a player for player makes sense if they're looking to add depth at another spot.
Yeah.
You got to make sure he's healthy first.
Yeah.
Because he's coming back from that injury. But he would make some sense to me. And then another one I thought of was Sua Opeta, who has some playing experience at a position where they have some decent depth now. Interior line.
Yeah, I like Sua.
I do too.
He's a solid guy. He's almost 27.
Yeah. But it's like one of those where, you have Matt Pryor and you're going to cut him and you think, oh, let's get something for him.
Well, that's Matt Pryor. I was so wrong about him. I thought he was going to be a stud.
A 6th-round pick.
I know, but just watching him in practice, I mean, he's huge. Yeah. I thought he was a 5th-round pick.
6th. 2018.
I'm sure you're right.
Yeah. He was taking the
no,
round.
He was a 6th-round pick. I was right.
I said 6.
I know.
I was really confused there. Yeah, he was around before Mailata.
I was trying.
He's the only 18 guy who isn't here anymore.
Now with the Niners.
Yeah, he's carving out a career.
2 years with the Colts, now with the Niners.
Are we good?
We're good.
All right.
Good luck with the ants.
Yeah, thank you. I need it. I need all the luck I can get. Maybe I'll buy some new lettuce. Really give a thorough inspection.
I would just throw out everything in the house and start over.
Maybe just burn it down.
Yeah.
It belongs to the ants now. Although the ant situation's getting better. They're dwindling.
It's just the other.
Yeah. It's tough though, because it's like I cleaned off that whole section of the counter.
Yeah.
And like you want to go a few days without seeing any before you feel comfortable. Like,
sure,
this is now I'm taking over.
Yeah.
Again. But like the way these little traps, they're not traps, they're like little packets of like goo that they eat, and they take it back to their nest, and they eat it, and they all die.
Right.
But you want to make sure it really works before you start the whole process over again.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Maybe eat out the next few days.
Not a bad idea. All right. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye Podcast, please rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. Watch on YouTube. Please click the like button. Subscribe there as well. That's it for Reuben. I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye. We'll talk to you soon.